This is the primal scream of a dying regime.
Pray for our enemies, because we're going medieval on these people. You're just not got a free shot on all these networks lying about the people. The people have had a belly full of it. I know you don't like hearing that. I know you try to do everything in the world to stop that, but you're not going to stop it. It's going to happen.
And where do people like that go to share the big lie? MAGA media. I wish, in my soul, I wish that any of these people had a conscience.
Ask yourself, what is my task and what is my purpose? If that answer is to save my country, this country will be saved.
War Room. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Friday, 21 August, year of our Lord, 2026. Okay, we dealt with the nation, this highly leveraged bet we have on hyperscalers and the nation, the $40 trillion. It's ridiculous. This is why the CR is ridiculous. Once again, the gutless Capitol Senate, obviously the Senate. And you see that Tom Cotton's in trouble. Now, the reason Tom Cotton's in trouble is Tom Cotton's Israel first. Tom Cotton he can't find a war he doesn't love. He's the leader of getting Pulte out of DNI and getting Jay Clayton in. He's the deep state senator, not Arkansas senator, and he's losing to some sixth-generation farmer by a couple of points. Now, they have not gone into – we have a ton of research on her that we're going to be maybe dropping tomorrow on Monday, but she's not all she seems. But her message, at least on the surface, until you really find out how radical she is appealing to people. This is why we went to Wisconsin, this polling of Steve Cortez. If we're going to hold these governorships and we're going to hold the Senate, we're going to hold the House, we've got an all-time fight on our hands. We have to be very, very, very focused on MAGA policies. But as we showed, and so I've got one of the great heroes and patriots up in Michigan that has been fighting this fight for a long time, Darleaf, Sheriff Darleaf. I tell you what, let me play. I just want to play from this morning's or yesterday's MSNBC. This is Maya Wiley, who I said I think is one of the smartest people on the left, and she's got some specific comments about the show, and particularly about this issue with illegal aliens and even legal aliens voting. So let's go ahead and play that. Then we'll play a clip about Sheriff Darleaf.
Analysis in mind, I want you to take a listen to Steve Bannon. This is sound from this week, him talking about ICE at polling places.
This is why we need a national emergency proclamation, a national emergency memo about the upcoming elections. You're going to have a forcing function to get to ID. You're going to have a forcing function not to have the phony mail-in ballots. You're going to have forcing function, Jack Posobiec, to have a up-armored ICE presence at these polling booths. And they say, well, that's going to be intimidation. Well, it ain't intimidation of a United States citizen. It's an intimidation if you're a foreigner and here illegally and not eligible to vote. It should be intimidating.
You know, I reported from New Jersey during this past election. I spoke to a lot of local organizers who organize in Latino communities where they're trying to get U.S. citizens out to vote. And one of the things they heard is simply the presence of ICE agents in the street had a chilling effect on voters, even if they were U.S. citizens who had every right to vote. So that's bananas. Explain to me what a national emergency memo is going to look like.
It's going to be disinformation put in the form of a memo that claims that something is happening that is not happening. But I just want to make this one thing very clear. Mm-hmm. First of all, they know exactly what Ari is exactly right. Steve Bannon is saying these things to scare people from even showing up. And what people need to understand is, no, you have every right to vote because you are a citizen. That's why you're registered. The states handle the registration. They do a good job. And at the same time, people...
Maya, we're very specific, Maya, and you know this because you're very smart. You ran for mayor in New York. You're one of the smartest people on the left. No, it has nothing to do with U.S. citizens. Of course, all U.S. citizens that want to vote should be able to vote and should go ahead and vote. This is about people that are not either illegal aliens or foreign nationals that are under one of these immigration programs that are voting, as Steve Cortez has brought up in the last hour. 55% of the quote-unquote legal immigrants in Los Angeles County, one of the biggest, if not the biggest county in the country, 55% are on some sort of welfare program. And this is why they continue to vote and continue to push these programs. Okay, I want to now focus on Michigan, one of the great patriots and heroes up there. We got a short clip. Let's play it, then we'll bring in Sheriff Darleaf.
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Berry County, Michigan. I'm Sheriff Darleaf. An employee of the Michigan Secretary of State's office reported to me that non-citizens are automatically registered to vote when they change their address. The confidential informant provided evidence that the customer and automotive record system is programmed to congratulate and inform non-citizens that they are registered to vote. When the confidential informant provided proof to her supervisor that non-citizens are automatically registered to vote, the supervisor stated that the county clerk would identify the non-citizenship status. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, this is not true. The county clerk has given access to the qualified voter roll after the Secretary of State registers a person to vote. The qualified voter roll does not designate a citizenship status. Once a person is registered to vote, they have the ability to receive a mail-in ballot or vote at the poll with their ID card. The polls do not verify citizenship status. My office has referred this matter for investigation to the United States Department of Justice of conspiracy to violate 18 U.S.C. 611 and place non-citizens on the qualified voter roll and in the jury pool. Additionally, I am asking the Michigan legislature to use its resources to remedy the illegal voter registration and placement in the jury pool immediately. My office encourages witnesses with additional evidence of non-citizens receiving automatic voter registration to report this evidence to my office or to your local sheriff. You know this is wrong. It's time to act. Have a good day.
So let's go to Berry County, Michigan, Sheriff Darleaf. So, Sheriff, we are inundated on MSNBC and CNN that this is never a problem. We're intimidating people, causing people. I just want to go back to the top of that and just take it very slow and walk us through, because this is the beating heart of the problem. And you've had the guts in Berry County, Michigan, to illuminate what's happening in the state of Michigan. This is happening all over the country, but I want you to take it. Just walk us through from the top, take your time, of exactly what is going on with this registration, sir.
Well, they have that CARS, and Michigan Secretary of State, of course, are going to give an acronym of CARS, but it's the Customer and Automotive Records System. And we're trying to figure out who owns that system. But what it does is automatically registers people when they come in and get their driver's license or get a address change or something like that. And by what I'm seeing, or what I've had reported to me, that it does it for everybody. And if there's certain ages, like between 16 and 17 and a half, they have a pre-registration. Then from 17 and a half years old on, there's an automatic registration. So what was reported to me was just simply that had somebody come on in, they didn't have their citizen card with them, or their, what is it called, permanent residence, I think what it was called. And it didn't give them the address update because they didn't have that card with them, but it automatically gave them a voter ID. And that qualifies them for the mail-in or being able to walk in and vote.
Let me go back. Are foreign nationals that are here under some sort of one of these immigration or visa programs, are they eligible to get driver's license in the state of Michigan?
That's something I'm still looking into, see what the limits are. And I've talked to a truck driver, and he's pretty up to date on stuff like that. And he says it's real easy for somebody who's foreign national or somebody who's not a U.S. citizen to even get a truck driver's license. And I don't know if that includes the voter ID with that. So it is a mess. It's something we're going to have to look into. I've requested this to go into the DOJ to look into it further, because it more than likely will be a nationwide issue.
But the whistleblower came to you and said that people actually in the registrar know that there's mistakes going on, but they're still continuing to do it, or they're saying, hey, some system, some county registrar will pick it up later. Are they kicking the can down the road, or saying they're not going to deal with it but somebody else will deal with it? Or are they just turning a blind eye to the whole thing?
I think it's more of the kicking of the can. That's what it sounded like to me, that this employee, when they went to their supervisor said the county clerk will get it. Well, I don't know how the county clerk will be able to get that because they don't have access to all that.
Well, we know particularly in Michigan, it's had this huge issue with county clerks with the Saginaw situation. They're not going to get it. So when you approached DOJ, what are you approaching them with? You approach them with the whistleblower, and what are you asking DOJ to do?
Asking them to follow up the investigation on it.
What about local authority? I mean, yes, this is obviously a federal problem because of being federal elections, but this is a Michigan. We know we've had tons of problems in Michigan, right? You got the Saginaw situation. Jim Hoff and the team over at Gateway Pundit have been amazing on that. You've dealt with some of these other issues. Is there anybody to go to at the Michigan level that takes this seriously at all, or is this just the Democrats' part of their model? They don't want to look at it. Aren't there authorities you can go to in Michigan that maybe get a quicker response than you do if you go to DOJ?
I can probably go through my local prosecutor because we're still going to do some follow-up on it. And I'll be turning it on into our prosecutor's office and see what we can do with it. But I think the best route right now is taking it right through the federal government, right through our own DOJ. I've been at this a long time.
Okay, fine. If those are the facts, we appreciate that. We'll look for updates. Can people, do you have a Facebook, or if you've got more of these videos or more of the updates on this, is there anywhere people can go? Anywhere on social media, website, Facebook, Berry County? How do people do it if they want to keep up with this?
Well, one of the problems we have is also getting the clerks. They got questions. They can contact here at the Berry County Sheriff's Office. We got to get set up here for it yet, and I don't know how to explain it. That we need an avenue where people can come in and report their findings. And I'm sure that once this goes on out, it's going to be like a tidal wave coming at me. So leave us your email address or a phone number we can contact you with. I can always forward that on up to the Department of Justice too. And I have my email address. I don't know if I should be giving it out over you guys right now, but you can always hang on.
Yeah, hang on. I wouldn't give your email address out quite yet. We'll figure out some other methodology because
thank you.
This is the show is watched by not a few haters out there. Okay. Not a few haters out there. I just want to go back. You just mentioned clerks. Are you essentially saying you're open for business from whistleblowers and clerks in other places, or why did you mention clerks right there?
Because the clerks are the ones that are going to be looking into, the clerks are the one that the Secretary of State manager said is the one's going to be looking into whether or not that's a U.S. citizen. So we got to find a way somehow get that information that does not happen. We got to get that information to the DOJ that's not happening. So if clerks want to step up and contact the Department of Justice themselves, they can do that and let them know that, hey, that's not true, what's been told. So it is a mess up at our Secretary of State's office.
And we know we don't need to go into details. We fully understand the issues in the Secretary of State office in the great state of Michigan. Last thing, when you say you've gone to justice, are you going through the U.S. Attorney in Milwaukee, or are you going to Main Justice?
There was two I was going to that I got their email address, and I don't know if they want me giving that out over this either.
No. You shouldn't do that. No, don't do that. We'll get to all that. Sheriff Darleaf, Berry County, Wisconsin. You are going to be hit with the tidal wave. We'll make sure we check in with you after the show. This is absolutely quite explosive. Thank you, sir.
Right, thank you.
State of Michigan. The beating heart of it, right there. Finally, a whistleblower is coming forward. It's totally corrupt, totally incompetent. This is why they're making such a big deal about this. And I'm say, oh my gosh, look what they're doing. They're intimidating people. No, we're not. We're every U.S. citizen. Go to the polls. Fulfill your civic duty. If you're an illegal alien or foreign national here, you are not going to vote. We're going to roll you up and throw you in jail if you do. Short break.
analysis in mind, I want you to take a listen to Steve Bannon. This is sound from this week, him talking about ICE at polling places.
This is why we need a national emergency proclamation, a national emergency memo about the upcoming elections. You're going to have a forcing function to get to ID. You're going to have a forcing function not to have the phony mail-in ballots. You're going to have forcing function, Jack Posobiec, to have a up-armored ICE presence at these polling booths. And they say, well, that's going to be intimidation. Well, it ain't intimidation of a United States citizen. It's an intimidation if you're a foreigner and here illegally and not eligible to vote. It should be intimidating.
You know, I reported from New Jersey during this past election. I spoke to a lot of local organizers who organize in Latino communities where they're trying to get U.S. citizens out to vote. And one of the things they heard is simply the presence of ICE agents in the street had a chilling effect on voters, even if they were U.S. citizens who had every right to vote. So that's bananas. Explain to me what a national emergency memo is going to look like.
It's going to be disinformation put in the form of a memo that claims that something is happening that is not happening. But I just want to make this one thing very clear. First of all, they know exactly what Ari is exactly right. Steve Bannon is saying these things to scare people from even showing up. And what people need to understand is, no, you have every right to vote because you are a citizen. That's why you're registered. The states handle the registration. They do a good job. And at the same time, people need to understand that it is a violation of federal law for ICE to show up at those polling sites and stand there. It is a violation. And
Maya, they do a great job, right? We're going to get into Michigan in a second. That's Menendez and Maya Wiley there. Let's talk about the national security emergency memorandum. Peter Ticktin, you got Wayne Allen Root, Peter Ticktin, are kicking this around. I'm going to go back to Michigan and the sheriff in a second to say hard of this. But what is the concept in back of this, Peter? You've been working on this for a while. Walk us through the concept of this and why you and others believe it's necessary. You can see that the left's head's blowing up already. They're trying to get ahead of this because they understand that the election system's so screwed up. Sir.
Okay, so the reason that I'm asking the president to declare that there is an election emergency is because there is an election emergency. You know, there are two different aspects of what we're talking about. One is that the machines do determine the results of what happens at the elections. And as I say this, I worry because I don't want people to not vote, because we're going to be able to get to the bottom of a lot of these things, but not if you don't get out there and vote. Because then we're going to lose one way or the other, legally or illegally. So what Sheriff Darleaf has come up with is that fact that one of the fellow named Olson, a clerk of one of the counties of Michigan, realized when one of the people changed their addresses in their computer system, with the Department of Motor Vehicles, it automatically gave that person, put them on the voter rolls, and announced to that person, congratulations, you are now on the voter rolls, you have the right to vote, and et cetera, welcoming them to vote. So what this means, this is the first time we're seeing this, but it is there. And if it's there for people who change their addresses, it's going to be there for those who register, or it's probably there for those who register. And this is how the influx of all these illegal immigrants have planned to be working for the Democrat Party, really for the globalists who took over our country for 4 years. So, right now, it's necessary that we have an order just for this alone. But of course, the bigger thing that we need the emergency order for are because of the election equipment that we know is controlled and will orchestrate the vote. We've seen it now in the primaries of this election. So just getting Maduro out of the way wasn't enough to stop it.
Let's go back to the Save America Act. do you agree we're past the time, we're past the point of no return that the Save America Act, which has some great elements in it, they're going to come back if they were to debate it in late September, because they're only coming back for a couple of weeks, then they're leaving to go campaign. We're past the time that actually the great elements of the Save America Act could actually be implemented.
Yes, but if we have an emergency order, we can get it implemented. See, the reason it needs to be a declaration of the emergency that exists is there's kind of like a lot of thresholds here. So in order for the president to have a say on how elections are conducted by the states, he needs to declare the emergency. I mean, China is in our election system. You know, I mean, when you think about all that China is doing to us, giving us, sending the COVID over here, the killing 100,000 of us a year, over the last 10 years, 1 million people, more than have been killed in all the wars since the Civil War, all put together. And they're in our election system trying to take over our country that way, where they did it for 4 years with their boy Biden. So, it may sound a little bit crazy, or it may sound like extraordinary, but I'm telling you, this is what's been happening. They're here, they're in our election system. If we don't have an order from the president that declares that there's an emergency, then he's powerless to make the changes. The Save America Act, thanks to a lot of people who should really know better, who should be fighting for our country and are working against it, that's up in smoke. So, the fact of the matter is we really need this act from the president, because this in itself is going to allow, now we see the mechanism. This is what this is. This is a peek into the mechanism of how all those illegal immigrants, the millions and millions of people that came through our border, as though that could ever be a good thing. How they're now going to be all voting for the globalists. So, because they're on the voter rolls. That's what this is. That's why it's so important.
They're on the voter
rolls. It's not this one case or this one person. It's the fact that it shows the means, the mechanism of how so many of them are now going to be allowed to vote if they don't have to bring proof of citizenship, the same as you do. I don't hear people being intimidated and unable to fly because they have to give their driver's license or show some proof of citizenship or identification when they come to the airport. Why is this such a big problem that they have to prove that they're American citizens? They should be proud if they're American citizens and proud to be able to show that they are. This is nonsense that we're hearing to. And why are they doing this? Because they're in favor of changing America to be a global part of the globe instead of having our own identity. They want to destroy our country.
Okay. You're going to see Scott Bessent's going to have a press conference on Monday to talk about the economic war. He's now economic warlord in charge of Persia. You're going to see about the sanctions, about how the Chinese Communist Party is central to this. The whole rearming of the Persians, buying their oil, giving them the cash, all of it. That'll be another element, along with fentanyl, the voter, the pandemic, everything. The Chinese Communist Party is the existential threat to the United States. Peter, I got a couple of minutes left. I just want to go back. What does the president of the United States have to do to sign the national security emergency order about the elections? What are the elements that you believe, you're one of the architects of this, you believe have to be in that memo to make sure that it, court challenges, anything, it's beyond that, it can actually be implemented before Election Day, sir?
Oh, it could be brought in, absolutely. And if anyone complains that they don't have the manpower to do the hand count or whatever, that's easy. We've got a whole army full of people that are willing to help, literally the army, or bring in the National Guard. It doesn't make any difference. They're not coming in to enforce anything. They'd be coming in to help count and do what the states tell them to do. If they have a problem with manpower, it's so easy to fix this thing. It just takes the will. And the will of these people that are sitting in power. I mean, we've really fallen so behind in the last 20 years. Turning this ship around is very, very difficult. But we need to save ourselves from going global. We cannot allow the communists, and now they're blatant about it. When I started talking about this, they were claiming to be socialists. Now they're blatant. we know what they are,
Yes.
and we know what they want, and if we just don't act because of any excuse or reasons, we're selling our country out. We need to do what we need to do here, which is have an emergency, not an emergency order, but an order that declares that there is an election emergency. That's the point, because there is an election emergency. They're in our system. I know what these machines can do, and they can determine the outcomes of the election. But more than the machines, now we have something that actually shows why they have to show ID, because they're in our system, in the voter rolls now.
Yep. Peter, where do people go? What's your social media, website, all of it, to keep up with this? Because this is going to be quite, let's say, hot and contentious for the next couple of weeks, because I believe you've laid the predicate and that the president's going to act on this. So where do people go to keep up with it?
Legalbrains.com is probably the best place to go right now. And we'll make sure we put some information up on that to make sure you're covered.
Peter Ticktin, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And thank you for alerting us to the patriotic and heroic Sheriff Darleaf from Barry County, Michigan. Okay, we've done Wisconsin, we've done Michigan. We're next going to go to the Buckeye State, the great state of Ohio. McCabe's at the White House to lead us through this. Birchgold.com/Bannon, End of the Dollar Empire. If you want to understand everything that Besson's been talking about, the president's been talking about, what Morning Joe's lecturing you on every morning, it's all here. Go to birchgold.com/Bannon, End of the Dollar Empire. 8 free installments going back from 5 years, 6 years when we first started this. 5 years. Check it out. New 9th installment coming shortly. Get up to speed this weekend.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
McCabe's with us. I'm going to get to McCabe in a moment. But, folks, and I want everybody, I think Elizabeth's already put up this Axios piece where I talk about this highly leveraged bet the nation has now, and particularly with the hyperscalers. So we have a leverage bet of corporate America on top of a leverage bet of the United States government. And yes, can you grow your way out of this? Maybe. You can if a lot of things go right and you're highly disciplined. That's what we're going to talk about. And hey, maybe the discipline starts with telling the House guys, you're not going to pass the CR. We're not going to vote for you. You're not going to play the game here. We're not going to wait to December to get the cuts that are never going to come. We'll do it now. Shut the government down. 5. Let's have a national debate. Want to put the Democrats on notice in October? Let's have a national debate. Now, Polly Pox, they're running all the guys running the money. They're making 20% of the TV buy. Oh my God, you can't do that. The donors don't want that. You're going to be called cruel and mean and xenophobic. Okay. It's what the American people wanted in 2024, and they want it more than ever now. And you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Let me just be brutally frank. Anything, this fiscal consolidation, I love. You got the 2 best guys. You got Vogt at OMB. You got Bessent at Treasury. 2 best guys. But every alternative is going to be painful. We've passed the time decades ago where there's not going to have any pain. It's going to be painful. You have to understand that. This is not a painless process. Just not. Get yourself in this jam, even to get the narrow path of growth. It's going to be painful. Okay, Neil McCabe has got a brilliant, by the way, birchgold.com, End of the Dollar Empire, /Bannon, End of the Dollar Empire. Most importantly, get to Philip Patrick, read this, immerse yourself. They got so much other information out there. It's totally free. No obligation. In fact, this is now taught in graduate schools of finance. Why? We made it accessible to people as kind of a beginning document that then you can go and look at more sophisticated analysis. But you get to talk to Philip Patrick and team. It's why central banks are buying gold now for the 3rd year in a row at record rates. Why is that? The same reason that the Lakers increased in value, quote unquote, $2 billion in 12 months. That ain't an increase in value. That's a drop in the purchasing price of King Dollar. Focus on it. Focus. Okay, Neil McCabe's done some extraordinary reporting coming out of the great state of Ohio. We got a short cold open for Neil, and they're going to bring Neil in from the White House. Let's go ahead
and let it rip.
There's a lot of talk about this court ruling for TPS. What is TPS? Temporary protective status. Let me emphasize on that first word, temporary. Now, there's a lot of talk going on because why the Supreme Court just recently ruled that President Trump can end TPS for a certain group of individuals. Temporary meant temporary. There's two options now if you fall underneath the category that the court just ruled on. You can self-deport. We will buy you an airline ticket and give you $2,600 to go back to either the country you go to or a country you choose that will accept you. Or we'll come find you. And if you think you're going to just wait out the Trump administration, it's not going to work. We will find you and we will deport you. Do yourself a favor. Go on to DHS's website and say, I want to self-deport. And we will immediately start working on your case, provide you with the money, provide you with airline ticket, and send you on your way.
Yeah, here in Springfield, the Haitians that have been here on TPS, what we've been told and seen reported, they were sent letters that they needed to report to Blue Ash, Ohio, which is a suburb of Cincinnati, which is the nearest Department of Homeland Security registration center. And they were told to report there, and when they went there, from what we've been seeing, they were taking any of their passports that they may have had them or any kind of documentation and putting ankle monitors on them so they could have them come back for future either deportation or whatever needed to be done. I think there were 4 or 5 that were picked up here in Springfield. The other day, I think it was 2 or 3 picked up. The DHS, ICE, and such are not coming in here to Springfield in large mass, primarily so they don't run into the same situation they had in Minneapolis. The ones of us that are kind of aware of the system and how it works, we knew that it wouldn't be a Supreme Court vote today and they're here hauling them out tomorrow. But the majority of the citizens of Springfield that have been here for many, many years are pretty unhappy that the Haitians are still here. They're still working in different businesses and such. Sad that that's the kind of stuff that we are still putting up with when many of us felt that once the Supreme Court ruling came down, that it would have been, a little bit quicker.
But Joy, what have you learned about this new development where Haitian TPS holders are being tracked now by federal officials?
Hey there, Del. Well, I have learned that in recent days, former Haitian TPS holders started to receive letters from DHS requesting that they show up for appointments. And once they showed up for those appointments, they were being outfitted with ankle monitors. We're going to start to show you some of those images. Many of these folks in Ohio, they went for their first check-in with DHS over the weekend on a Sunday. Some of the attorneys told me that it was very unusual to receive a letter asking people to show up on a Sunday. But once they entered the door, they weren't kept in custody there. Instead, they were given ankle monitors by DHS and then sent back home.
McCabe, what I don't understand this whole. We got a clip. We'll play some B-roll. The first plane of 170. I don't get why this is like by invitation only. It ran out. Their times run out. You saw. And by the way, I don't know if that was a ZZ Top cover band or not. But ZZ Top just told us you don't see any ICE guys down here rolling people up. What is the problem with Kung Fu Plumber? What is Mark Wayne Mullins, who went on TV at first and said, hey, if you want to go for permanent status, maybe you put your paperwork in for that. And we know he's very weak on all these issues. He should never have been DHS secretary. But why are we not aggressively going into places like Springfield, enrolling these people, taking them to a bus, put them on a plane, get the plane, go wheels up, sir?
Yeah, he could do it, and he's not doing it. And, there was a lot of problems. People had a lot of problems with Kristi Noem. But Kristi Noem would have rode into Springfield on a horse and round those people up on buses and flown them out. And so it's new management. I guess they don't want another Minneapolis problem. I didn't think Minneapolis was much of a problem at all, frankly. But here we are. And on the ground, they're saying, you know, ones or twos are being arrested. But basically, people are getting an ankle monitor and being told, go home and we'll get back to you.
But it's not even that many ankle monitors. They're 100,000. They're still in Springfield. They still got jobs. Their businesses, they got all of it. They're reporting to work. I mean, number one, there's very few mass deportations. I think we got to think of a plane with 170 people finally left a month after, 6 weeks after the Supreme Court. You've got a handful of ankle monitors. Every time somebody gets an ankle monitor, they've got the camera on them and they're crying and they say, no, we can't do it. We can't go back. It's impossible. But even that's very light. Why is Mullins just not going in there with ICE and saying, hey, folks, load into the van, your name, check with a clipboard, got it, name, TPS, put them in a van, take them to a plane, those $1 billion. I think they got 7 or 8 of these major jets that we've already paid for mass deportations, have them all lined up there in the runway, and boom, fill them up, and then next stop, Haiti. Why is that not happening?
Number one, you have the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, who is dead set against it, and he's being as obstructionist and uncooperative as possible. Number two, you have maybe 30,000 Haitians in Clark County, which includes Springfield, and they're all working in businesses. They're all working in factories. Like a month ago, a lot of those factories and businesses told the Haitians on TPS to go home. Now I'm finding out that there are NGOs and other organizations coming in and getting those Haitians back into those factories, back into those stores. Those businesses are opening up again. It's like everybody's been told business as usual. And then you have another complication. You were talking about voting in the earlier segment. The Ohio law says if you're 22 years old or younger and you don't have a high school diploma, you can be enrolled in the public schools. And so when Springfield and the rest of Clark County goes back to school, they're going to have 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old Haitian men enrolled as freshmen in those high schools, which is extremely disruptive. There's all sorts of things going on, Steve, and nobody wants to stop it.
By the way, DeWine, why don't they put DeWine on notice and say, if you interfere with any of this, we're going to arrest you? Why are we letting DeWine, who's already gone on TV a couple of times crying big crocodile tears about how Haitians built Ohio? Last time I looked, American citizens built Ohio. It's one of the great stories in America. The Ohio River Valley and the founding of the state of Ohio is just absolutely amazing of what happened there. You know, of course, for DeWine, it's the Haitians that built Ohio. Why don't they send him a notice? Why doesn't Mark Wayne Mullin send him a notice? If you're going to interfere in any of this, we're going to come and arrest you, sir.
I think people are scared to tip the Ohio Republican Party any further than it's been tipped. It is very corrupt. It is very dysfunctional. That's a whole nother segment that we can go into. DeWine put up a third, like an independent conservative in that primary. So he won, even though there was a MAGA conservative running in that primary. And the governor of Ohio is extremely powerful, and that's got to be negotiated. But, you know, it's got to come from the top. Mullin has threatened people before. He puts out a lot of threats. So let's see what happens.
McCabe, great reporting, a lot of activity over the White House over the weekend. We'll try to grab you in the 5 o'clock show. Give us your coordinates, social media coordinates, so people can keep up with all your reporting videos, all of it.
You can find me on all the socials at Reporter McCabe, and check out my columns at the South Shore Press out of Long Island, Steve.
South Shore Press. By the way, real quickly, the president, are they going to go to the Grand Prix today? Is it Melania, the first lady, and the president are going to go over and check out the practice runs, the trials?
The practice runs start tomorrow morning. The president will be attending the final race. The qualifiers are tomorrow, so there will be cars racing around the city tomorrow morning, all through the day. The final qualifier is Saturday night. I believe it starts 5 or 6. And then the actual race itself is Sunday. The president will be there in the stands.
Grand Prix comes to Washington, D.C. Neil McCabe, thank you. I know you're going to be on top of all that. We'll check in with you after the show. The great Neil McCabe. You get the Supreme Court has your back and you're not ready to go. I don't understand that. I don't think anybody understands it. The Supreme Court puts out a decree, temporary protective order, over. Now, hey, folks, time to go back home. And you got to do this with everybody, not just singling out the Haitians. They just happen to be the largest that are right there. Boom. The dogs of Springfield support this. They are 100%. Let's roll. Let's get the Haitians. Where are we? Let's get the Haitians and get them home. The dogs of Ohio, the dogs of Springfield. Okay. Birch Gold. Why did the Lakers sell for $12 billion when they were $10 billion a year ago? And even that was like, wow, went from a couple billion to $10 billion. How did that happen? How did these music libraries, your favorite, Bruce Springsteen, how's that go for what, $3 or $4 billion? Declining the purchase power of the dollar. Find out all about it. Birchgold.com/Bannon. End of the dollar empire. End of King Dollar. You'll find out all about it.
Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Home title, like, remember, 80 or 90% of your net worth is tied up in the home. With all the advances in AI and cyber, the combo, particularly of all these containment issues we've got. I'm going to talk a little bit about that at 5 o'clock tonight. These containment issues, now more than ever, you need to protect your castle, not just physically, the actual physical plant, but also the title itself, HometitleLock.com. Promo code Steve. They give you a free report. First off, you get a free report on your title history. See if anybody's been trying to mess around with it. And you get $1 million triple lock protection for 2 weeks free. How can you beat that? Natalie Dominguez, the team. Promo code Home Title Lock, promo code Steve. Every dream you've ever had is in that home. Make sure it does not turn into your biggest nightmare, because it can, particularly if you get turfed out of it. Check it out, HometitleLock.com, promo code Steve. Eric Metaxas, August of 1776 was a quite trying time for the beginning of this kind of independent coalition of states that we had. You named your book Revolution, not American Revolution. It's been on the bestseller list, I think, 10 weeks of the last 11, 9 of the last 10 or 10 of the last 11. Why is this thing the surprise sleeper hit of the summer, sir?
Well, there are people listening right now that still haven't bought a copy. And I want to tell you, folks, this is urgent. First of all, it's a fun book. You need the good news, because on this program, we talk about solving these horrible problems, which is centrally important, but you need to be inspired. Why are we doing it? And that's the answer to the question you just asked, Steve, about why is it called revolution, not American Revolution. I came to this idea that our revolution in 1776 and on is the only revolution that successfully did what it promised to do. Every other revolution is a bitter lie. And we can start with the French Revolution, and it gets to the heart of this question. The French Revolution said, yeah, we hate authority, we hate tyranny, we're going to get rid of the king, the queen, and then we're just going to start killing the priests and the nuns. In other words, they foolishly thought, you know, human beings are basically good. If we just get rid of this oppressive authority, we'll be free and we can do whatever we want. It ends in a bloodbath of terror. It's a proto-Bolshevik nightmare. They trade the king and the queen for a dictator emperor called Napoleon. So our revolution is the only revolution that succeeded. Why? Because we got rid of an earthly king to be totally free. Here's the catch: to look to God, our king. Now, we don't mandate that. We have religious liberty. That's at the heart of everything. But they understood that if we don't have a population that takes God seriously and that is virtuous and full of character, this is not going to go down. And they all wrote about it. John, I mean, I quote them in my book. They all got this. George Washington, they all understood that faith in the God of the Bible is at the heart of all of this. If you don't have that, we won't succeed. And so I think that, you know, when we're talking about, you say it's going to be painful. It is going to be painful. It was incredibly painful during the revolution. So how do we get through that pain? Well, we need hope. God is the only answer to that. And I just want to be real clear that the men of the revolution understood that. What gave them the ability to push through was faith in God, faith in this beautiful idea of liberty, that this wasn't their idea. They weren't arrogant enough to think this is their idea. They said, this is God's idea. We got this from the Bible, and we're going to try this. And if God is in this, bringing into human history a nation where the people are free, where they govern themselves, then we can look to him in the midst of it. And by the way, what goes along with that is we need miracles. We need God to help us. We need miracles right now. In other words, we're supposed to do everything we're supposed to do. But even if we do everything we're supposed to do, we can't win unless God helps us, unless his Holy Spirit is the wind filling our sails, the wind at our back. We need to get that seriously. And so that's at the heart of the story of the American Revolution. Now, it's not like my book is about that, but when you read the book, you read it, it's behind all these stories. If you don't have that, if you don't focus on that, that gives us the hope to push through the pain. We're not going to push through the pain. We're going to take the easy way out, and we won't get through it.
We're going to end this republic. It's a republic ending. Amazon.com. Go get the book today. Try your bookstore, but Barnes & Noble still stiffing us. But Amazon.com, you can get the book right away. Where do they go to find you? The reports I'm getting back, as good as you are in the war room, which people now think you're a co-host of, as good as you're on the war room, you're actually better in real life. Metaxas, having known you, I find this hard to believe, but you're actually better in real life. People want to know where you're going to be. So where do they go to find out?
I'm going to be, I can only go downhill from here. I'm not going to appear anywhere if those are the reports. That's it. I want to go out on a high note. Honestly, I'm going to be everywhere. Go to ericmetaxas.com. I'm going to be in Detroit. I'll be in Nashville. I'll be in Grand Rapids. I'm all over the country. If you invite me, I'll come to where you are. I'm going to Colorado Springs.
Amen.
I love to get out there. I'm speaking in churches. I'm speaking wherever they'll have me. But listen, this is not about selling books. This is about saving the republic, and this is serious. And anybody who listens to this program understands we are in an existential war. This is a crisis. If we do not have the resolve that the men of the Revolution did, this is why Henry Wadsworth Longfellow writes Paul Revere's Ride in 1860. We're not going to get through the Civil War unless we look back to the spirit of 76. We're not going to get through what we're going through right now, battling Marxists, Islamo-fascists, lunatics, globalists. These people are at war with everything we love. They're at war with God and the ideas of the Bible. They're at war with all this. We need to have cultural confidence and strength, and that's at the heart of it.
This book goes. Thank you, brother. Look forward to having you back on. Go right now to his site to find out where he's going to be. In real life, it's amazing. Metaxas is one of the greats. Trevor Comstock, we're going to end in an upbeat as you always leave us. What do you got for us today, sir?
Yeah, good to see you, Steve. So a quick reminder, we are still running our end of summer sale. So you can still use code SUMMER through the end of the weekend for 20% off any order. And then also with the time I had, I just wanted to touch on our tallow moisturizer, just because we get a lot of questions around it, but the reviews are always amazing. But for anyone that doesn't know, this is a handmade product with just 2 ingredients, which is the 100% American grass-fed and finished beef tallow, and then the raw Manuka honey. So nothing synthetic within it. No chemicals or anything like that. And the tallow is just really amazing because it is almost identical to the natural oils that your skin produces. So it absorbs much more deeply and actually nourishes the skin as opposed to just sitting on top of it, which unfortunately is the case with a lot of other products on the market. But then it's also
where do they go to where do they go to get the sale? Where do they go to get the reviews? We're gonna have you back on at 5. Where do they go right now?
Yeah, you can go to sacredhumanhealth.com and then you can use code SUMMER for 20% off any order.
The Charlie Kirk Show's next. We're back at 5 o'clock, 5 to 7 tonight. Check us out then. And actually, Trevor Comstock's going to join us. See you back here at 5.